Begin transmission. Signal corruption detected. Entry 1137. Recovered memory strand from orbital drift capsule. 7H Vox. Accessing file 1 of 5. This entry was retrieved from the neurodeck of lead engineer Saul Renner, last known survivor of the Kasparov Black Salvage Expedition. His team made contact with a mythic megastructure, an ancient ring-shaped construct encircling a dead star. What they found inside was not dead. It was dreaming.
The first thing that struck me wasn't the size, it was the sound. Even before we breached orbit, the comms panel started spitting static that had rhythm, too patterned to be noise, too broken to be speech. Morse code run through a blender. The ring filled the viewport. It wasn't a band, it was a continent curved like a scythe. The Kasparov Black slowed to match velocity. No signs of life, no energy bleed, not even decay. It was as if the thing had just been built yesterday, or worse, as if it had never aged at all. Soraya kept her eyes on the telemetry. "You ever see a construct this smooth?" she muttered. "No seams, no towers, no ports." "No culture," I said. "No exit," said Anders from behind us. We didn't find the entry, it found us. A hole appeared in the structure. It didn't slide open or melt, it was just there, a tunnel in the middle of an unbroken surface. I didn't like that. Doors should have mechanisms. This thing just changed its mind. The inside wasn't metal, it wasn't anything. We called it stone because we didn't have better language. Dark gray, porous, but warm to the touch. Not decayed. Waiting. Our landing gear didn't make a sound touching down. The interior light adjusted to our presence. Slowly, as if waking up hungover. I stepped onto the surface with the rest of the team behind me, 7 strong. By the end, I'd forget their names. The air smelled wrong, too clean, and too much ozone, like breathing inside an exposed circuit. I sent out a drone. It didn't return. That should have been the sign. We found the first shrine an hour in, a great spire covered in carvings that weren't carvings. They moved when you stopped looking. The closer I got, the more I heard them. Not words, not even whispers. Just a soft, vibrating hum that made the fillings in my teeth ache. And that's when I first felt it. The pressure in the back of my skull, like someone leaning against the inside of my mind. Not a thought, not a voice, just presence. We camped that night by the spire, though we lost track of when night actually started. The ringworld simulated its own light, some kind of biosynthetic glow that responded to heart rate, or maybe emotion. The more frightened we became, the dimmer it got. Soraya couldn't sleep, said the rocks were echoing her dreams. The next morning, Anders was gone. We found his helmet 200 yards away, sealed, fogged on the inside. No blood, no trail, just the helmet and something written inside the faceplate in a language none of us recognized. Later, when I pulled the data logs, the letters were gone. Like the system didn't want them read more than once, I should have called for evac. Should have scrubbed the mission. But I didn't, because something in the stone kept whispering just below my fear. keep going. You were always meant to come here.
Signal degraded. Thought thread fractured. Standby for memory resequencing. Voice stabilization complete. Recovered transmission. 2 out of 5 in progress.
It took 3 days before we admitted the truth. The ring wasn't built for life. It was built to remember it, or maybe consume it. The internal terrain didn't obey logic. Our mapping drone drew a full topographical layout of the area surrounding the spire. Then 30 minutes later, the entire region rearranged itself. A hill vanished. A trench appeared where none had existed. I thought it was sensor error until we walked it and found Anders' helmet again in a different spot. By then, Soraya was whispering in her sleep. Her logs were corrupted, overwritten with footage of her childhood home, places she never recorded. Except in this footage, the walls had carvings, the same ones from the shrine. She didn't remember making them. We moved deeper. The light dimmed in pulses. The ring began simulating dusk, not in the sky, but inside our suits. One by one, our HUDs began to flicker, not off, just skewed. Fonts melting, coordinates curving. At one point, my vitals read as negative numbers. And then we found the vault. Not a door, a throat, wide, spiraling down into the planet's guts. Walls glistening like bones submerged in memory, and lined with what looked like faces, not sculptures, real faces, flattened, fossilized, whispering when no one spoke. I reached out, I don't know why. Maybe I wanted to feel if they were warm. They were. Warm and breathing. "Do you hear it?" said one of the interns. I forget her name now. She was standing closest to the entrance. Eyes rolled back, blood leaking from her nose. "Hear what?" I asked. "The apology," she said. "It's sorry for remembering us too clearly." I called her back. She didn't move, just smiled. The others held me back when I tried to run to her. The moment I turned, the entrance changed shape. It no longer spiraled. It was flat, solid. She was gone. No scream, no echo. Just a trace signal, a heartbeat. From inside the vault, we tried to retrace our steps. The route had changed. Where a straight tunnel once ran, there was now an arch. Under the arch, words glowed softly. None of our translation AIs could read them, but every one of us understood. "Feed us your shape." That night I slept with my helmet sealed. Didn't help. The dreams weren't mine anymore. I saw myself from outside my own eyes, walking corridors that moved behind me, rooms folding in on themselves like a body trying to forget its organs, and always the whisper, "You belong here. You were always here. You are the seed." Soraya woke screaming, said someone had spoken to her in her father's voice. Her father died 10 years ago. She said he asked her to crawl inside the wall, said he missed her, said he finally remembered what her skull smelled like. I sedated her, only to find her already injected, but not by me. The ring had grown a tube from the stone, and it was pulsing with her blood. This place is not a ruin, it is a womb, and something inside it has been waiting for a long, long time.
Signal disruption detected. Memory anchor. Unstable. Stand by for waveform correction. Decryption complete. Signal restructured. Recovered transmission. 3 out of 5 in progress.
We built our camp at the mouth of the vault. It wasn't a decision. It was inevitability. No one wanted to admit it, but none of us had left the perimeter in hours, maybe days. The chronologues disagreed with our suits. Time didn't tick. It pulsed like a heartbeat, sinking to the low thrum, rising through the stone. Soraya had gone catatonic. She stared at the center of the vault, like it was speaking directly into her optic nerves. Her vitals said she was asleep. Her mouth was whispering, constantly. We recorded the audio, played it back. It was every one of our voices, overlapping, screaming, laughing. One of the interns said it sounded like a birth tape. I don't know what that means, but it made me want to peel off my helmet and scream into the dust until my lungs gave out. And then, worse, we received a transmission from the Kasparov Black. I knew that wasn't possible. We'd lost contact 14 hours after landing. The ship had never responded to any hails since. But the voice on the loop? It was mine. Soul, initiate collapse protocol. Soul, they're not dead. They're garbled, static-laced, looped endlessly. Except I never made that transmission. We followed the signal source. It came not from the sky but deeper into the vault, somewhere in the spiral. The vault was no longer dark. Its inner walls had lit up in veins of red and magenta like oxygenated flesh behind translucent skin. Some of the carvings had become detailed. Faces, bodies, some recognizable. I saw my mother etched into the stone, not just her features, her expression, frozen in the moment before she died. No one else would have recognized it, but I had seen it, lived it. The ring saw it too. The others started hearing names in the silence, names of dead, loved ones, pets, teachers, people long gone or forgotten. And worse, those voices weren't calling out. They were laughing. Soraya finally moved, her limbs bent wrong like a puppet whose strings were being yanked too fast. She walked into the vault. We tried to stop her, but the entrance was no longer just open. It welcomed her. The walls parted. The stone moaned. We followed. Of course we did. The descent took hours or seconds. Time didn't mean anything anymore. We passed mirrored surfaces, not metal, not glass, just slick, glistening walls that reflected wrong. I looked into one, saw myself blinking. Then again, but the second blink came before the first. A delay or reversal, like the reflection had its own thoughts. And then it spoke. "You're almost hollow enough." I screamed. No sound came out. And then I remembered something I'd never experienced. A childhood memory in a place I'd never been. A desert of black sand, my sister's voice. I never had a sister, but I could smell her breath. I could feel the weight of a name I didn't recognize sitting in my chest like an anchor. The vault was eating me, not just my body, my story. It was replacing who I was with what it wanted me to become. We found Soraya curled in the center of the inner chamber, and she was smiling. "Don't you see?" she whispered. "The city isn't alive. It's remembering itself through us." She opened her mouth, and inside, beyond the tongue, the teeth, the throat, was light. Moving light, pulsing like a signal, like something trying to get out.
Signal interrupted. Audio continuity stabilizing. Recovered transmission. 4 out of 5 in progress.
We tried to pull Soraya out. We tried. But her skin adhered to the vault floor, like it had grown there, not melted, not fused, rooted. She wasn't screaming, she was humming. A song I hadn't heard since I was 8. The tune my father used to whistle while repairing our old solar rig. Except I never told anyone that, never recorded it. It wasn't in any log. The vault knew. We cut her free. It didn't bleed, but her blood was gone, replaced with a fluid that glowed cyan, like irradiated memory fluid, like someone tried to write light into her veins. She lived for 47 more minutes, said nothing, just blinked, each blink slower. And when the final one came, her eyes didn't close. They collapsed inward like holes punched in the world. We moved her body into one of the upper chambers, if we could even call them that. Every room looked grown, not built, like it dreamed itself into being after remembering how to mimic architecture. And then the walls began to breathe. Not a metaphor. They expanded and contracted in sync with our heartbeats. When we tried to hold our breath, they stalled, waiting. That night, one of the interns, Clem, slit his wrists, but the blood never hit the ground. It hovered, midair, quivering like jelly. then crawled toward the nearest wall and was absorbed. We watched the stain trail upward, smear across a section of wall until it formed words. You are almost shaped. We stopped sleeping, not because of fear, but because the vault began inserting dreams while we were awake, open-eyed hallucinations, but sharper than reality. I saw my first lover, Eris, kneeling in front of me, hair wet, skin split into code patterns. She asked me if I'd like to forget her again. Then she smiled, and her mouth became a tunnel, a spiral leading deeper into the ring. When I blinked, I was 3 levels deeper than before. No memory of walking, just her laughter still echoing in my skull. And there, in the deepest level, we found it. The central vault. It didn't look like a chamber. It looked like a skull, not fossilized, not carved, grown, the size of a freighter with pulsing ridges across its crown. The bone was etched with millions of tiny symbols. We watched them move, not scroll, move, shifting in spirals, forming words in languages none of us spoke, but all of us understood. Your species dreams too slowly. Let us help. That's when I heard it again, my own voice from behind me, repeating things I hadn't said yet. I'm going to scream, it said. Then a second later, I screamed. Time was breaking. We ran, or tried to. The corridors looped, doors vanished. At one point, I opened a hatch that led directly into the cryopod where Soraya had been sleeping 2 weeks earlier. Except she was in it, alive, breathing. And she turned to me and mouthed, "You've always been here, Saul." Then she vanished. The pod folded in on itself like a collapsing thought. We are not explorers. We are ink, and the vault is the pen.
Memory distortion exceeds acceptable parameters. Fragment isolation successful. Recovered transmission. 5 out of 5 in progress.
I no longer remember how many of us remain. Even the names feel like scratched echoes. Just sounds wearing faces. I think I'm the last one, but sometimes I hear breathing. Sometimes it matches my own. We are deep now, beneath the central vault. Inside what we thought was the foundation. It isn't. It's the mouth. The vault is not dead. It was dreaming, and now it has begun to wake. The final chamber is a cathedral of nerves and light. Strands of glowing thought run through the walls. Red, cyan, violet, like veins in a god's skull. Floating in the center is a sphere, metallic, pulsing, reflecting everything except us. I tried to scan it. The scanner imploded, turned inside out, like the data had teeth. And then the sphere cracked, and a sound bled out. Not music, not a scream, just a word. Remember, it said it with my voice, but layered, like all the versions of me I'd never lived had spoken in chorus. I fell to my knees. The others, if they existed, collapsed with me. We wept, not because we understood, but because the ring understood us, our failures, our grief, our loss, and it remembered them more clearly than we did. I saw my father die again, but this time I saw what he whispered into my ear. I saw every version of myself that I had refused to become, and I saw the vault consuming them, weaving them into its walls, its breath, its story. The ringworld is not a place, it is a ritual, a eulogy sung by a species too old to dream. It survived extinction by becoming memory, and now it wants us to carry it forward. I am writing this from inside the sphere, or what's left of me. The rest, my past, my shape, my soulness, has been reduced to light, to ink on this great machine's mind. My fingers no longer type, they echo. My breath loops, it replays. My name is Sol Virek, and I was the last to forget. I hear the signal now, all of it. Every thought ever captured, every mind ever swallowed, every God ever hollowed out by time. They sing through me. You're not hearing a recording, you're hearing a test. If the vault finds you, you won't know at first. You'll think it's your memory, your voice, your story. And by the time you realize, it's already begun to write you down.
End of recovered transmission. Signal source collapsed. Echo irretrievable. Marked for permanent isolation by Archive 9. End transmission.